In the last video, we finished by writing linear equations, and we talked about needing a slope and a y-intercept in order to write the equation. So today we'll continue with that idea. So we look at example 7. It says write the equation of a line in a slope-intercept form, and then they give us the slope and the y-intercept. So your keywords here is write the equation. Anytime you hear that, you want to think about the slope-intercept form, and the idea that if we were to be given the slope and the y-intercept, then it would just simply be that we replace m and b with the given values. So in this example, m is 3 and b is -1. And so this would be the equation of the line. Example 8, write the equation of a line. So there's your keywords again. In slope-intercept form that passes through the point 0, 4, and the slope is m equals -2. In this example, they don't say b is equal to some number. However, we can recognize that since x is 0 here, then this is actually your y-intercept. If you were to plot that point, you can see that it's right on the y-intercept, so your line is going to intersect at that point or cross the y-axis at that point. So in this example, b is equal to 4. So now I can write the equation. So my slope is -2 and my b is 4. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form passing through the points 0, 5 and 3, 6. So now they don't tell me what m is and they don't tell me what b is. However, again, since x is 0 here, then this will tell me that b is equal to 5. And so then the next step is I need to find my slope. So in the last video, we discussed on how to find the slope. We can use the formula here. And so I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So my y2 here is 6 minus 5 divided by 3 minus 0. So 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 0 is 3. So my slope is 1/3. So I have the two things that I need, the slope and the y-intercept. So I can plug that in. M is 1/3 and b is 5. The equation of a line with slope m passing through the point x1, y1, this one is going to be called the point slope form, is written as y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So this is just another way of writing the equation of a line, or you can continue to use the slope-intercept form. Find the equation of a line that passes through the point 3, -7 and has slope of m equals 2. So you still need two things, which is the slope. And now, if you have the y-intercept, then that is great because we would work it out like these three examples. If you don't have the y-intercept, then this is how we would take care of that. So if we look at this point, since x is not 0, we cannot say that b is -7. So this is not the y-intercept. So there's two ways you can do this. The first way is using the point slope form. I'm going to show you both ways, and then you can decide which method works best for you. So if I write the point slope form, this is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. I'm going to call this x1 and y1. So I'm going to substitute the y1, which is -7, my slope, which is 2, and my x1, which is 3. Negative, negative is positive. Distribute the 2 inside, so we get 2x minus 6. And we're going to solve for y. So subtract 7. So we get y is equal to 2x minus 13. Or the second way you can do this is using the slope-intercept form. And recall that is y equals mx plus b. And so what we can do here is y is going to be this -7. M is given, which is 2, X is 3, and then we have B. Subtract the 6, so we get that B is negative 13. So what we did here is we actually found B, so your slope is 2 and B is negative 13. So now we can just substitute that in and get our equation. So those are two ways to doing the same problem. Example 11. Again, you can check your point. Since x is not 0, that's not a y-intercept form. So I'm going to use this form. And so I'm going to have y minus y1, which is 1. My slope is negative 2/3 minus x1, which is 1. Simplify. So distribute the negative 2/3. Add the 1. Okay, so since I have a fraction and a whole number, in order to add those, I need a common denominator. In this case, my common denominator would be 3. So in order to make this a 1, I need to multiply by 3 over 3. And so I get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2 plus 3 is 5/3. Or again, you can use the other method. So y is 1, m is negative 2/3, x is 1 plus b. Add the 2/3. So b is equal to 5/3. So my equation would be the same. Okay, so again, the idea to writing these equations is you have to have the slope and at least one point. And if that one point is the y-intercept, then it makes it even better. Number 12, find the equation of a line that passes through the points 5, -7 and 8, -7. So they don't give you the slope, but they give you enough information to find the slope. So we can use the slope formula to find the slope. First, so y2, I'm going to call it -7 minus y1, -7, divided by x2, which is 8, minus x1, which is 5. Negative negative is positive, so we get 0 divided by 3, so m is equal to 0. So that tells me this is going to be a horizontal line, and so then we can find the equation by using the point slope form. So I have y minus, you can use either point, y1 -7, my slope is 0, minus 5. So y plus 7, distribute the 0, so we get 0, and then we get 0 minus 0 is 0, subtract the 7, so my equation is y equals -7. Two distinct non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal. Two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other, which I'll discuss here in a little bit. Graph the lines using the slope and y-intercept on the same coordinate plane. So here I can see that my slope is 2 and my y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to graph that, go up 2 over 1. So my line is this right here. And then this one is 2 and 0, -3. So we go up 2 over 1. So as you can see, these lines have the same slope. And when you graph it, they're not going to intersect each other. They're actually called parallel lines. A line is perpendicular to another line if the slope is the negative reciprocal of the other line. So before I do this example, let me just try this one here. Let's say you have a slope of m equals 1/2. Then another line to it would be, that's perpendicular, would be the negative. So I write the negative and get the reciprocal of this right here. So reciprocal means, that you're going to flip the fraction. So we get 2/1. So m is equal to -2. If a line has slope 4, then it's negative reciprocal of that slope. So if this is 4, there's really a 1 under it. And so we're going to have the negative, flip the 4, the fraction here, so we get -1/4. If a line has slope -2/3, then we write the negative. The reciprocal of this number is going to be -3/2. So negative negative makes it positive 3/2. So in reality, or what's happening here is you can see, if you start with a positive, then the perpendicular line will end up with a negative number, and then you take the reciprocal, so you're flipping that fraction. So here I started with a -2/3 and I ended up with a positive 3/2. I started with a positive half and I ended up with a -2. Determine whether the lines L1 and L2 are parallel or perpendicular or neither. So in order to figure that out, we have to find the slope. So this would be for L1. So y2 is -3 minus -3 divided by x2, which is 2, minus -6. Negative negative is 0, and then we get 8. So this slope is 0. So for L2, we have y2, which is -1/2, minus -1/2 divided by 6 minus 3. So we get 0 as well. So as you can see, line 1 has slope 0, line 2 has slope 0. Since they are the same, then we say that the lines are parallel. Let's go to the next page. Find the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point -4 and are parallel and perpendicular to this other line. So the first thing we want to do is figure out what the slope is that we're working with. And so if I have this line here, 5x minus 3, 8 equals 8, I need to find the slope. So I'm going to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides and divide by -3. So y is equal to 5/3 x minus 8/3. So all we want from this line is going to be the slope, which is 5/3. Once we have the slope, which is 5/3, then we can proceed. So let's work with the parallel first. So the slope is 5/3, and the point that they gave us is -4 and 1. So this just becomes like the other problems. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Y1 is 1. My slope is 5/3. X minus -4. I'm using 5/3 because it's parallel. That means that I'm going to use the same slope. Okay, let's simplify a little bit here. So we get y minus 1 is equal to 5/3 x. Negative negative is positive. 5/3 times 4 is 20/3. And so if we simplify some more, let's add 1 on both sides. And so we need a common denominator. So this 1 I can rewrite as 3/3. 20 plus 3 is 23. And so this would be my equation for parallel. So for perpendicular, we still use the same point. And now the slope, since it's perpendicular, we're going to get the negative reciprocal of this, which means the opposite sign. So if this is positive, we're going to end up with a negative, and then get the reciprocal, which means to flip the fraction. And then we start the process again. So if you do this correctly, then your answer would be y equals negative 3/5 x minus 7/5. So I'm going to put a star here, and that means try it on your own and see if you get this answer. If you don't, please reach out to me and I'll help you find your mistake. A slope of a line can be interpreted as either a ratio or a rate. When the x-axis and y-axis have the same unit of measure, the slope has no units and is a ratio. When the x-axis and y-axis have different units of measure, the slope is a rate of change. So let's look at example 16. The maximum recommended slope of a wheelchair ramp is 1/12. A business installs a wheelchair ramp that rises 36 inches over a horizontal length of 32 feet. Is the ramp steeper than the recommended source? Okay, so first let's look at what they're talking about is a slope. So we have rise over run, which is the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. This is just another way to look at the slope. So they tell me that the vertical change rises 36 inches and the horizontal length is 32 feet. So to have a better understanding of this, let's convert feet to inches so that we can have the same units. So we have 36 inches, so 32 feet, there's 12 feet, 12 inches in 1 foot. And so we would have 36 inches divided by 384 inches. And so if I divide 36 by 384, then m is equal to 0.094 is the slope that we have with these values. And the recommended slope is 1/12. If I divide that is 0.083. And so we can see that this slope is much steeper than this one. So we would say our answer is the slope is steeper than recommended. Okay, so let's look at the next one. A manufacturing firm purchases a machine worth $24,750. The machine has a useful life of 6 years. After 6 years, the machine will have to be discarded and replaced because it will have no salvage value. Write a linear equation that describes the book value of the machine each year. So having a word problem sometimes can be confusing. So you want to look for keywords. Your keyword here is write linear equation. Once you see write a linear equation, that should remind you that in order to do that, we need a slope and we need the y-intercept or just some other point. Okay. So if we have the slope and any of these two, then we can go ahead and write the equation. So we look at the problem again. It says that this firm is going to be buying a machine. So it's worth 24,750. So in order to find the slope, we're going to need 2 points. So when you first buy something, you're at time 0 because you just bought it and it's worth 24,750. So this is the value. So that's 1 point. The machine has a useful life of 6 years. So 6 years later, this machine will have to be discarded because it will have no salvage value. So we would have 0 for the value. So first we can find the slope. So 24,750 minus 0 divided by 0 minus 6. So this gives me negative 4125, which makes sense that it's negative because it's losing value. So each year it's losing $4,125. So now we can write the equation. So we have y minus 0 using this point is equal to my slope, x minus 6, 4125 times 6 is going to be 24,750, and negative is positive. So we get that the equation is negative 4125x plus 24,750. And if you notice from the beginning, this number is special because your x is 0, and that makes that your y-intercept, which is what I got here. Okay. So this equation, you can enter a number here, and it'll tell you, if I enter 1, it'll tell you how much the machinist value is at year 1, year 2, and so on. So this is the end of section 1.3. For extra credit, just 1 point on exam 1. We've been talking a lot about slope. So for slope, they use the letter M. So basically, what does the letter M stand for? Besides slope, it means something. In other words, why did they use M for slope instead of S? So if you just Google why is M used for slope, then it will give you an answer. You send that back to me, and I will give you 1 point on your exam.